Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Myself Manjeet Kaur and today we will learn about Dockers. So let's share you the agenda for today. That is, first we are going to study what are containers because Dockers are eventually because of containers. If we don't have containers, we won't have Dockers. Then we will learn the definition of Dockers and then why we are moving towards Docker from the traditional environment to the Docker environment. And at last, we will study the difference between the virtualization and containerization. So what is container? Container in a layman language is something that contains something. Similarly, in technological world, container is something that contains an application and all the dependencies are also packed within it, like binary files, configuration files, and library files that are needed for that application to run on any of the platform. So we are making the application platform independent. That is why we are using Docker. The answer to the third point, why Dockers. So we will learn that in more details. Now, what are Dockers now? Dockers are platform as a service. It is an open source software container platform. So Docker is a platform and it is holding the containers on top of it. So what we can do with containers with the help of Docker? We can build containers, we can ship containers, and we can run containers. So these 3 points are the primary key points that we can learn about Docker. Now, talking about why we are moving towards the Docker environment is because we want our applications to be platform independent. That is, we need not have to worry the application is built on which platform, on which environment. It will run on any environment because it is platform independent. So we are making the applications into a container and then we are able to ship that application within a container and it could deploy easily on any platform. So the fifth step here, the deployment, becomes easier with the help of containers, with the help of Dockers, and the overall SDLC, the development lifecycle also gets improved. So two areas, deployment, and with deployment, the overall development cycle gets improved. So it helps not only the development team, QA team, but it also helps operations team because they need not have to worry whether they are making that application on which platform. Now heading towards the difference between the virtualization and containerization is that in virtualization we have a software named hypervisors like VMware KVMs that creates and run VMs on top of it. Now they also allocate fixed spaces and memory to all of these VMs, hence allocating fixed resources for these VMs. Now that is not the case in the Dockers. No fixed resources is allocated for any container because in containers OS is virtualized and not the hardware, but in case of virtualization the hardware is virtualized and not the OS, and each VM has its own OS. Okay, now in the next step we can say that when we are starting these VMs in virtualization, they need an OS boot because first the hardware OS will boot and then the particular VM OS will boot, or the guest OS we can say. Now in the containers, uh, the VMs or the containers run much quicker because the OS kernel is already in a running state, hence there is no need for a OS boot wait. Now when we are talking about the files that each VM contains, the virtualization VMs contain the application files as well as the OS related files. Now as you know, containers only contains application and their dependent files. They don't contain any of the OS related files. Only the application related files are present in containers. So That's it for today. And in the next lectures, we will learn about Docker commands and installation of Dockers and much more.